Hello, and welcome to Diary of a Bold Woman, where we learn how to turn up our shine, reclaim our time, protect our peace, and move with bold intention as we talk about all things self worth, self love, self discovery, self leadership, and everything else in between, whilst having the audacity to be awesome, even when we do not feel like it. I am your hostess with the mostest, Naomi. I'm a creative, I'm a life coach, I'm an all round busy mama doing all the things and bringing you along for the ride. So, in case you are wondering what is all this about, as someone who has spent a ridiculous amount of time very hyperfixated and concerned about how others perceive me and being overly generous and overly open and available to others to the point where I end up neglecting myself in the process. This podcast, this space, this shift is me pulling the brakes on moving in that self sabotaging kind of way. Okay. It's about giving permission to live life in the way that you deserve, in the way that reflects your worth, regardless of your age. Whether you're choosing to develop something, whether you want to pivot, to rest, to reclaim, whatever it is, you can do it at whatever stage of life you are in. So, I'll be sharing my lived experience in a way that open, it's honest, it's vulnerable. Why am I doing this? Hopefully relatable. In a creative way, because that's just a given. Maybe a little bit kooky. I apologize in advance, but it's in order to understand that self leadership, is about honing in on the importance of self care. It's about reclaiming those dreams that we may have felt it's just too late to get started on. So I'm really glad to have you here on Diary of a Bold Woman. So let's get started, shall we? Dear Diary is me becoming the main character at my age really a thing? Okay. When you think about a woman, okay, what are some of the roles or things that come to mind? Dependent on what generation you're from, you may come up with some traditional concepts related to, I don't know, motherhood or some kind of caretaker. Um, probably throw in some girl power and independent lady vibes as well. I feel like as a woman, I've definitely leaned more into the traditional concept. It fit me well, you know. I considered myself quite a family oriented person. So doing the whole getting married and having kids, that was like high on my agenda anyway. Um, but of course I wanted to kind of be able to stand on my own. So it's about laying the foundations first, and then considering the rest. How much did society's views on what a woman is play in my journey? I couldn't tell you. That's a question for another day. But what I do know is that in the circles of women which I've had the privilege to get to know, there seems to be a common thread. And that common thread is handling business. These women know how to handle business, spin plate, juggle ball, everything, right? And it's like handling their business, but it's also handling everybody's business too. Like somehow, whether they have kids or not, whether they're married or not, like these women that I've gotten to know, they give their all to their careers, to their families, to their spouses, to their communities, and as fulfilling as it can be. We be tired. Okay, we be tired. I can't actually remember the last time I went through a week or even a day and I didn't say, man, I'm tired. But like, why is that? I don't know. Maybe it's because I've kind of been living my life a bit like a background character, the supporting role, that big piece of plot armor that allows the main character to shine. Main character being the career, the family, the community, etc., etc. They all have the majority of the screen time. But, and that is a big but, let me tell you, somewhere along this journey, I realized my story is not over yet. There are still chapters to be written. There is a new season where I am the main character. Hello, plot twist. And I tell you the truth, this plot twist, it comes from the realization that putting yourself like last, forgetting about yourself, neglecting yourself, okay, that does not serve you or anybody else. It does not do you or anybody else any justice. Okay. So what am I talking about? Um, Basically, I'm talking about when you overextend yourself past the healthy limit. You're saying yes when you really want to say no. You're taking on more and more things on your plate without the adequate rest. You're neglecting your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state. And on top of all of that, there's a lack of boundaries. As if you do not matter. Like, hello, somebody. Okay. I learned this the hard way, and in some aspects of my life, I'm kind of still recovering from some of those decisions which I have made. But this is my redemption arc, baby, and trust me, this season I am bringing all the main character energy. Yeah. So, what does that actually look like? It's about believing in that vision that you have and working on breaking down the barriers that stop you from moving forward. It's about owning your time, your energy, your power, prioritizing the things that matter, setting boundaries that honor your well being. It's about leading with intention and not fear. It's about showing up consistently and courageously, even when things feel all over the place. It's about moving with boldness and bravery, taking action, big or small, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, but still in a way that respects your joy, respects your wellness, and does not sacrifice any of those things. Okay. It's about main character energy for real life. Yeah, not fantasy. But if you're thinking, oh, yes, that sounds fabulous, darling, you do you, yeah, it's probably going to sound kind of unrealistic, especially if you spent a lot of time just, doing the whole background thing. You've probably never thought you being up front and center as in your needs, your priorities. But you have to remember, everybody starts somewhere. No expert is an expert straight out of the womb. And neither with thinking this way be just pop and got it straight away. But regardless of how you feel, this is a beautiful time to start. Me, I never feel my age. When I say the numbers that I currently have out loud, I kind of look around saying, is that mine? Maybe my mama, maybe some of the aunties from church or some senior colleagues, but the truth is, I can't look at them anymore. I am big people now with big people problems. I am auntie now. Oh, yes. So, despite the number, I should not let any of those thoughts or feelings deter what I want to create and how I want to live my life. And this is why. With every new decade, there's life experience, there's wisdom, there's clarity. You know what you really want because you can look back and see what you really don't want. There's stability because you've been through enough. Okay, so you've got that emotional resilience as well. Maybe you've even got some financial security too. So you've got foundation, something to build off of, not just some wobbly newborn fawn. There's a robustness to you, and that will be your greatest asset. So, whatever comes to mind that you want to change, what you want to develop or learn or pivot, that's, you doing something different than what you've been doing all this time. Never see it as a late start, you starting late to the game. No, this is your seasoned beginning, honey. Okay. So, why don't we do this? as often as we can. Why aren't we making this shift? What's the hold up? I tell you, life. Life is the hold up, okay? I kid you not. Life, the very underbelly of it, is the parts that you don't want to share, the parts that you want to hide, the guilt, the fear, the hyperfixation on other people's opinions, the self imposed barriers, how we talk to ourselves, okay? These are the things that stop us from creating momentum, and that internal resistance is your comfort zone in panic mode. Over the past couple of years, I've done things, explored things that my old self would have their eyes popping out their head, being like, huh? I've danced on the edge of my comfort zone so many times, and it has not been pretty. It's not a bed of roses, not a walk in the park, or whatever metaphor you choose. Let me just say, wherever it is that's beyond your comfort zone, it's not comfortable. It's not supposed to be. But that is where growth is, that is where change is, and that is where the fuel to feed your goal is found. I remember when I was starting off my creative journey, I was very selective with sharing my art. I was more comfortable around strangers. They were very nice to be fair. But my nearest and dearest, basically did not let them know what was going on. I didn't share with them my goals about starting a business until I felt like I knew what I was doing, because there was this niggling fear in the back of my mind that they're going to look at me funny. So that kind of shrunk me a little bit, shrunk my vision. And it also robbed me of the opportunity to really enjoy what I was doing. Like I was feeding into that fear of failing or fear of looking just incompetent. But you know what? Yeah, I was. As I said, no expert is an expert straight out the gate. I was a complete beginner, and that was absolutely fine. I made mistakes, a bit of more than I could chew, more times than I can count. But the beauty of it, as someone with a few years under the belt, I can look at that and bounce back, because I already have achievements, I already have accomplishments and successes and life experience I can look back on. And it's also about believing that this dream that I have, there's something within me that I know I can actually achieve it and that I deserve it as well. And it's the same for you too. So, whatever hump it is that stops us from making the shift to move with that kind of intention, it's about reframing how you see things and also changing how you talk about yourself. It's about looking through things through a lens of self love and self worth and accepting that a small step in the right direction is still progress. So, we're going to wrap this all up nice and pretty and stick a bow in it and just say, this question: becoming the main character at my age, is that really a thing? And you know what? Yes, it can be if you want it to be. Okay. So, reflection time. Ask yourself, if I were the main character in my story, what would I do next? Take some time and reflect on what it is that you're doing these days and be happy with what you've achieved. Take time and reflect on what else you would like to do and how it would make you feel when you get there. Take time to reflect on what that first step would look like. And that's a wrap. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. So go ahead and start channeling some of that main character energy. And also be sure, please, please and thank you, to tune in to the next episode. I'll be talking about something soft. Yay. I told you there'll probably be a little bit of kookiness in there. I apologize greatly. But anyway, until next time, stay fabulous, and I'll see you on the next entry.